back to Griffin Eye News. As always, I'm Maeve. With us, of course, I have my handy-dandy cameraman, potentially endangered, the scandalous Scald with an A, the Peacemaker. Hello, Scald.
Hi, Maeve. How you doing this evening? I'm doing just fine, just fine. Everything's just fine. Nothing
To worry about? You feel safe?
Nothing at all.
Okay.
Well, if we took all these things seriously, we would never get anything done, right?
That's true. That's true. Never take anything seriously is the way to get through life.
Absolutely.
I have a special guest for us tonight.
And who do we have today?
We have with us His Grace, Ivar the Black, who's going to tell us all about his artisan crafts. Hello.
Nice.
Hey there, guys.
How are you doing today?
Well, I cannot complain. Busy guy these days, but you know, it's better be busy than not. So here we are.
Very true.
Fair enough. How long have you been playing in the SCA?
I got going in the SCA probably in around 88 or 89, I would think. So that's 30 odd years.
Wow.
Yeah, it feels like an awful long time. I actually can't remember a time that SCA without SCA, really. It was like I was a kid and then I was in the SCA and here we are.
And 30 years later and everything's going fine.
It has turned out not too badly, I must say.
Excellent. So how did you get started in the SCA?
Well, like many of us, I was a D&D player when I was a kid. And so I found myself at a convention and there was a demo being put on. This sort of same convention happened year after year. And the first year, that was maybe 87 or 88, I saw the SCA doing a demonstration. I thought that's amazing. And then I saw them again the next year and I thought, well, I gotta be part of that. So put my name down on the piece of paper and the rest, as they say, is history.
Wow.
D&D has been a gateway drug for a lot of people.
Absolutely. You know, I remember goofing around with Oak Dowell, with Haskell, Paul Slater, my best friend, and when we were kids. And our one friend, he thought that would be really fun too. So he came out, and of course we didn't have any armor. We were just goofing around as kids. And his first shot landed right on my hands, and I didn't have any armor. And so I gave him hell because, you know, we don't actually hit each other. He says, "Oh, come talk to me when you guys actually hit each other." And then a few years later, we found the SCA and we said, "Hey, no, we actually hit each other now." He didn't. He didn't. He chose not to engage in the SCA. It was not his thing.
Okay. Well, speaking of armor and not getting hurt, I understand that you are a purveyor of fine armors that prevent thumb injuries and hand injuries of all kinds. So what attracted you to making armor out of old dinosaurs?
Well, it was more of it was a bit of greed. I'm not going to lie, and it was a little bit of necessity because when we started making this, I was doing quite well in the martial aspects. Let's see, would I have been a knight? I think I was knighted. Well, it gets foggy. I've been a knight for 20 years. Been making armor for around that time. So I was doing well martially, and I knew that in order to do well martially, I wanted armor that was light and that wouldn't bind, and I wanted to make my own, and I wanted it to be the best sport armor I could find. And so sport armor was what I was after. And by sport armor, I mean stuff that you hide and is light and is protective and is easy to move in and that kind of stuff. So that was kind of my goal. I always wanted to make that kind of thing. But then a guy by the name of Callum McFergus, Brian Ferguson, mundanely, SCA guy from Moose Jaw and then Regina from a long time ago, he came across a website on how to make Stormtrooper cosplay armor, back before cosplay was called cosplay.
Right.
And he looked at that and he looked at me and he said, "I think we can make this into real armor." And we looked at it and it was hand-drawn sketches. I mean, this is internet from from the 90s, right? So
Yeah.
like hand-drawn sketches and wooden frames and all kinds of weird stuff. And so bit by bit, we started to experiment, and we realized that like this is actually a thing. I can form. So because prior to that, it was either sewing leather or bashing steel, or maybe trying to form aluminum if you could find some street signs or whatever. You know, whatever we could get our hands on. But of course, we're so remote in Avacal and in Sagala-Hundas as well that it's difficult to just go and buy the thing that you need. So lots of times you had to make it. So yeah, we made everything that we fought in, and this was just a natural extension of that. I wanted it to be faster and lighter, and so here we are.
Well, to circle back a little bit on something you said, you mentioned that you were knighted in the SCA. And as part of my research for this, I actually went back and found your knighting ceremony.
Oh yeah.
There were some special pieces there. It's like one thing which I did not know is that you were gifted a turtle when you were knighted.
I was. Yeah.
And there seemed to be some sort of backstory that I could never find to that turtle.
From what I understand, so without getting too deeply into how the whole story that I got knighted, Davin was the person who put me on vigil and September Crown in 1999, and Garoa was his queen, and the knighting was supposed to have an American anniversary in October. So Davin couldn't make the ceremony. He couldn't make it there. So it was Garoa who knighted me. So Garoa always felt that I was hers because she's the only one that she ever knighted by herself. She, of course, needs the help of a member of the Order of Chivalry because it takes a knight to make a knight. And so my knight at the time, His Grace Duke Ivar, helped her out, but I was hers as far as she was concerned. And her personal totem, as it were, in her persona is a turtle. So she drew a turtle on my belt, and that turtle is still lurking around on that belt, which is still lurking around the Avacal right now. Mr. Olaf the Snowman is currently the proud owner of that belt, and yeah,
That's
every
fitting.
time I see it, it's still one of my favorite things.
Wow.
It was hard for me to give up, and I like to see it travel around, so it makes me happy.
That's an awesome story.
That
And-
is.
Yeah. And just to sort of settle up some gossip here, because we were talking ahead of time, and you were also on another show earlier called Bard Tonight, where there was an accusation that you were not wearing pants. And you just confirm right now that you are indeed wearing pants.
I am both wearing and not wearing pants at the same time.
So it's up to our imaginations to figure this out.
I will tell no
pants.
tales out of school, I'm afraid. You're going to have to do your own research. There are other people in the house that can either confirm or deny that I am wearing pants, so you'll have to
That
sort
would be
that out
something
yourself.
for her grace to answer.
Exactly. Don't delve too deeply there, though. Be careful. Tread lightly.
Doesn't mean that you'll necessarily get the answer either.
Exactly. Yeah, that rabbit hole could go quite far.
Well, circling back to the original topic, what do you find most challenging about making your own plastic armor?
Well, it's been a process that we've been, or I guess I have been refining. Brian Ferguson, he stepped out quite early on. He sort of left the SCA, found other things to do and that kind of thing. So this has been sort of my baby for the last umpteen years. And it really has been just trying to find the next innovation. It's one thing to take a vaguely conical thing and form some plastic over it, but I really wanted to push the boundaries of what this is a business for me, and so what this business could do. And so the most challenging thing is trying to stay sort of relevant and current, and come up with new things and keep people's interest alive and that kind of stuff. So I've been struggling with making larger pieces, and so that's been a real challenge. That involves making having heating equipment that's non-standard, and so inventing that. And so there's been a lot of, how do I build a larger oven in my basement without burning my house down, and
Important.
that kind of thing. The burning of the house and the burning of the cells is really top of mind these days. When you work with the hot plastic, it certainly is an occupational hazard. So yeah, it really is just innovation is the stuff that is the hardest and both the most rewarding. It's the thing that keeps me going in this. I really like to invent things. I really, I know that this is sort of an artisan series for you guys, and to call me an artisan is generous. I would call myself an inventor. I would call myself a maker. I like to make functional things and things that are useful and I don't know, sort of protective and bring happiness to people in ways that are different than someone finds happiness in a piece of art, I would think. But you know,
There's a certain happiness in not having your thumb broken.
There is certainly joy in being protected.
And you do put at least a little bit of effort into the visual appeal of it, because I've seen you talk about it before, and you don't want lumpy things. You don't want things that aren't. It's not just about the practicality. There's some visual
absolutely
to it too.
Absolutely. I want people to buy this stuff, frankly, when we get to the end of the day. And so I want it. I mean, and there's an old saying of in the fighter community, you know, it's not whether you win or lose, it's how good you look when you win. So, yeah. You know, there is something of that, right? We have a little bit of pride, even if it's things that are meant to be hidden. You want it to look like something that someone took pride in making, and so that's what I like to do.
So you sound like a very proud artisan. And are there any pieces that you have created that you would say are your favorite works, like your personal babies or anything?
Well, yeah, it's difficult to say, because all the stuff, like my favorite thing is goodbye, Skill.
I don't know what. Well, I don't think there's anything we can do for him right now. I'm just gonna turn that off. Don't know what's happening. That's never happened before. I'm going to. I'm going to see if Gwen's available really quick so I can continue with a second interviewer. Maybe. See if she's around. Hi, Gwen. Are you busy right
now? No, I don't have to be.
I know that you weren't supposed to be interviewing tonight, but Skell just got kidnapped, I think, and I need some help. If you,
it's a very skilled thing to do. Sure. Can I have just a second to get ready?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So yeah, we should be good. I think we're good.
Okay. So before Skeld got kidnapped, I believe he was asking if you had any pieces that stand out as your favorite works.
Yes. I have to rejig my train of thought, having potentially lost a man-at-arms to the clutches of something nefarious.
I'm sure he's fine.
I'm sure he's fine.
Yeah.
He's fine.
He's a hardy.
He's a stout.
Well, he did make his way all the way across Avacal in order to make the last court there. So I'm sure he'll sort this out. Yeah. I have every faith. Okay, so favorite pieces. I was lying in bed one night. So okay, back it all up. I abandoned the plastic business for a while. It was getting too busy, taking up too much of my time, and so I stepped away from it for a good long while. But all during that time, I never really stopped thinking about it. And I'm a problem solver by sort of nature. I'm always, that's what I do for a living, is solve problems. And so I was always trying to figure out how to do a basket hilt, because I thought if I could produce a plastic basket hilt, there's going to be a real market there. We don't have to keep getting from the same sort of source. We can diversify, it can make different shapes, and do all kinds of interesting things. So that idea ruminated for years in my head. And then one day I just worked out how to do it. And that was, so yeah, and it turned out really well. And so that was honestly it's probably my favorite piece, because it's the thing that got me back into doing this. It's been really, really successful. I've never heard of one of mine breaking. I've made some refinements over the years. I've heard the tabs breaking, but never the actual basket hilt itself. And now the tabs don't break anymore either, because I've refined that piece. So yeah, it really has been a thing where it's been the thing that has And on my website, I call it the signature basket hilt because it really is the thing that I like to be known for is
Right.
with that. So yeah, I think that's probably my favorite. But really, if I'm honest, the favorite's the next thing I'm working on because that's always the fun stuff. The R&D stuff is always the most fun.
Speaking of your signature basket hilt, is there a variety that comes with your signature on it?
Well, only one person, as I understand it, in Avacal has an actual signed edition of Ivar the Black Basket Hilt. And from what I understand, it's worth thousands. So
I would not doubt that.
Undoubtedly.
I would actually call it
Undoubtedly.
priceless because that person would have to be willing to sell it for it to be worth so much.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, at least $100. That would be. I have no idea.
We could probably ransom it for more.
There are no commercially available signed basket hilts, if that's your question.
What a shame. What a shame.
Tragedy,
Yeah.
really. Yeah.
Want to keep that unique. It's a collector's item.
Fair, fair. Do you have some pieces that you'd be willing to show us some examples of your work?
I can. Again, I keep harkening back to an artist showing off their work, and really, I can show you the very repeatable work that I do. But I guess we can kind of go through some things here. Let me just grab my camera. Let me see if I can figure out how to flip the thing around.
I have faith.
There we go.
Ooh.
So here we've got, I got a big order. I don't have any basket hilts on the go right now, but this is just a series of van braces from like really tiny, which looks like a toy to me in my hand, but is actually too big for my wife, which amazes me. I don't even know how that even works. So from like small to extra large, we've got like a whole stack of elbow cops here. This is something interesting. I've got a new strapping system that I've kind of figured out with elastic strapping that I don't think has ever made its appearance in the SCA, at least not that I've seen.
Right.
So it'll make the elbow cups more comfortable, and they'll stay on better, and they won't break as often. Sometimes the strapping wants to break or dig into the buckles break because there's so much stress on them. So yeah, here's the basket hilt. This is actually a bit of a strange one. Haskell, my best friend up in Mergen Wood, he 3D printed the mold for this. He actually built it on his computer, and then I put I made a mold. I've got a process where I've got if you take silicone and mix it with cornstarch. Stay with me for a minute. So silicone and cornstarch, and you mix it all together like a clay or a dough, it actually turns into a rubber. And so I made a basket hilt mold off of that. And so that's the kind of thing that we're getting into these days is if I can figure out how to build it on the computer, I've got a 3D printer coming in the mail anytime this week. That's what they've been telling me for weeks now. Yeah, if I can imagine it, I can print it and I can make an armor out of it. And so I'm really excited to get into that kind of thing because suddenly I can get into different kinds of pieces. I can get into pieces that can be fit together, and yeah, so the sky's kind of the limit there.
Wow.
Honestly, it's very exciting stuff for me. It's all the R&D is really what gets me out of bed these days, and so there are times when this feels like my real job, and my real job feels like my thing that's in the way of me wanting to go in the back of my job. Hopefully my boss doesn't see that, because there's nothing wrong with having a side hustle, but when it becomes as busy as mine has, it feels like a main thing. So
yeah,
fair enough. So say someone needed a basket hilt or a shield boss delivered, can you do that?
I can do that. There's a few options available on my site, which is plasticsmitharmory.com. I highly encourage all the Avacalians to contact me before. If they were going to jump on the site, I would of course fulfill the order. But I mean, I can build local discount codes. We can do things like SCA Courier. There's you know, options kind of for that. So absolutely, yep, I can help out anyone who's looking for stuff. It's best to contact me first, because we can figure out the cheapest and easiest way to do that.
fair. Very cool. Do you have any new pieces in development?
I do. Here, I'll show you this. I'll flip this around again. So here we've got this horrible looking duct tape special. So for years I've been looking for something called a bazuban. I wanted the plastic bazuban, which is a Middle Eastern style of forearm armor that's built with forearm and elbow protection all sort of in one. So one day, just ruminating in my head, I thought, well, what if I do this and this? And so I take this and I make a plaster mold out of it.
Right.
This plaster mold is covered in nylon, in pantyhose, basically, for reasons that we'll get into in a minute. So it looks a little strange to the camera, but you can kind of, it's just a big old chunk of plaster.
Right.
But then I would take that and I would form that, and that would get iterated into sort of the next version, which I'd make a new mold off of, and I'd carve that down, and so that gets iterated into the next version, and so on, until we get kind of a finished piece of what I'm after here. And so this is very, very interesting for me because I've had lots of interest in these bazubans, and I think they really are an excellent kind of armor if I can make it exactly the way I want it to. So that's the thing that's in development right now. It's pretty exciting for me because it's something that I've been working on for a long time. I've spent a fair amount of money and a fair amount of time in that kind of stuff on it. So it's definitely the new thing. And so we've got that bazuban right there. So it's interesting in the fact that the top cover here, it doesn't. So normally your regular arm harness would have sort of a buckle strap system that you'd have to do up when you're done with it. I've always found that to be a bit of a pain, especially when you want to put armors on really quickly. So this is a little different in the fact that, I don't know if I can do it with one hand, but it's got an elastic system that just keeps this in place. So there's no buckles and no straps on these bazubans. They're all held together with elastic. And so I've been playing with how to do that exactly the right way to make sure that everything stays where it's supposed to, and yet is easy to take on, take off. So that's kind of interesting. And I've got, this is just a regular van brace, just like you've seen over there, my terribly messy desk. Except this one has got elastic straps all through it. It's a sort of a splinted system. So it just slips on and slips off without the use of buckles or anything like that. So yeah, there's lots of different kind of innovations that I'm looking at, and that's really the fun parts of this gig, is to say, okay, well, and this isn't just thinking, why would I want to build this, let's just try to invent something new. This is solving a need that I had. My arm armor is a bit of a pain to take on and off, so I wanted something faster and easier and quicker. And I've been traveling more in the SCA than I have been in the past. Well, been flying more, I guess, into places that I have. So travel armor is a big niche I want to look at. Light stuff that packs down. The neat thing about this van brace is it's bulky, but it squishes down to nothing, so that you can pack some of your armor.
That's amazing.
So I'm pretty happy with how that's going to work out. So that's nice, flat, easy to store, easy to pack. I mean, these things are so low profile, you could just wear them on the plane, frankly. But
True.
They might look at you a little weird,
They already do that.
I've worn weird SCA stuff on the plane to avoid problems, so I do it.
You should try traveling with crowns. It's very
I'm good, thanks. I'm good. So if someone brand new wanted to try to get started into plastic armory stuff, do you have advice that you would give them for trying?
In order to make or in order to use?
In order to make. If it's something
I would say, like, there's a lot of stuff that you can make with just a simple heat and bend technique without having to learn too much. The vacuum forming itself is a bit of a, you don't need anything that's particularly specialized. I mean, I use a shop vac and some stuff that I built, something called a platen, which is kind of like a vacuum box that that sucks out all the plastic sort of down. honestly, that stuff is a little advanced, and it's a bit of a pain to figure out the temperatures and all that kind of stuff. But heat and bend is actually really easy. Anything with a simple curve like these, these are all just made with heat and bend. And so you can do a fair amount with just that. So yeah, if people have an interest, I'll probably, they're certainly welcome to contact me in any way they can, through my site or through Facebook or whatever. But I'll likely do some heat and bend tutorials, because it's actually pretty easy stuff. It's not complicated. I use a blowtorch and some gloves. Gloves are clutch when you're using this stuff, because it gets pretty hot. But yeah, the idea is that I heat it to the point where it's a bit rubbery, and then I can kind of shape it to where I want. Again, simple curves, right? Like this is just a simple curve. It's just a circle. There's no rounding. There's no complex curves there. That stuff really needs a vacuum former. I've seen people who can kind of form sort of an addition kind of way, but it always looks terrible, honestly. So yeah, I would tell people to look at some of the heat and bend stuff, play around with it. It's pretty cheap. I can get a 4x8 sheet of polyethylene that's an 1/8 inch, which is all this stuff is made of, is 1/8 inch. The vacuum form stuff is thicker, but the stuff that I heat and bend is 1/8 inch, and it really, like, it's $40, right? So there's a lot of mistakes you can make in that $40 sheet until you make something that you like. Just about anything that you can make out of a shaped piece of leather without having to stitch it, you can make out of plastic heat and bend. So that kind of thing is easy enough. Plenty of patterns out there. Most of the stuff you can use leather patterns. If you have to start to stitch it, then you're gonna have to look at vacuum forming it, and that's a whole different ball of wax.
Right.
Excellent.
Gotcha.
So given that this is a semi-new art form-ish, are you currently apprenticed to anyone? And possibly more importantly, are you in the market to be apprenticed to anyone?
Again, this is very much a thing that I built out of necessity. It's interesting. I've been talking to some of the other historical combat societies out there. I'm just talking to some of the HEMA guys a little bit, and they're really interested in my stuff. But the guys that they're looking to buy it, they want to buy a finished product. They want no part of learning how to make it. They don't want to put buckles on. They don't want to put straps on. And that's a thing in the SCA where we just do. Like, I sell to the SCA guys, and I sell all my stuff completely unstrapped, completely raw, and it sells just fine, because we are a making and doing society. Very much not. I mean, the combat is absolutely a big part of what I do. It's what gets me going in the SCA. But I wouldn't be here if I didn't know how to make this stuff, right? Or improve it, or fix it, or maintain it. So yeah, it's a thing that I've been doing the entire time. So I don't, not that I don't think I have anything left to learn in that vein, but I don't know anybody who does the stuff that I do. Because I mean, if I was to apprentice to an armorer, that armorer would teach me amazing metalworking skills, or amazing leatherworking skills, or that kind of stuff, not how to vacuum form plastic.
Fair enough.
So it really is a thing that, I mean, I've got a very, very good idea of what works and what doesn't, because I've been fighting for 30 years. So yeah, I'm not really looking to be apprenticed. This isn't I don't look at this as an art form. I look at this as a science. And I don't know anyone else that's doing the same thing that I'm doing. But, you know, never say never. I mean, I'm interested to hear, the only sort of service mentor student relationships I've ever been a part of have been Marshall. So I don't even know. That's an interesting question, and then it's a question that I would have to entertain over some drinks with somebody, I think.
Right, but not a no.
Never a no. We are a making and doing society, and the more a guy can learn, the better off he is.
True. So I already know the answer, hence the hesitation. Have you ever held an office?
No. I've done a few things in the SCA. I don't think I've ever been seneschal. I don't think I've ever been herald.
Mm.
I think I've done most of everything else. You know, sort of at the Shire level, I was lots of things in the Principality Marshal thing back when we were Principality. I've done a little bit of ruling in my day.
A little.
That's an office that is an awful lot of work, but man, needs an awful lot of help from the other offices. So I got to see a lot of what goes on behind the curtains in lots of the different offices and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I've done a fair amount of SCA administrative mumbo jumbo in my day. That's the technical term.
Good to know. You heard it first, folks. Mumbo jumbo is the technical term.
Administrative mumbo jumbo.
Yes. Good.
Ask Duke Ivar. He knows all about administrative mumbo jumbo these days.
So word is you are married to an incredibly inspirational woman for some time now. How did that come to be?
Well, anyone who was at our first coronation knows that story. But for those of you who weren't, I'll see if I can do a abridged version. It's kind of a long story. So that gaming convention that I talked about, where I put my name on a piece of paper, the person on the other side of that piece of paper was Asni, and so she was very beautiful girl at the time, and I was a very awkward kid at the time, and so we put our name on this piece of paper for, yes, we'd like to know more information. And I got a phone call back when we had phone calls in the house, when the phone would ring on the wall. It seems like forever ago. And there was a meet and greet in her basement, and she was, I don't know, like 13 or 14 at the time, like ridiculously young. And so was I. I was a couple years older, but not by much. So, which is really unusual, I think, to have a meet and greet in some little girl's basement for the SCA, but it was a different time. She was the chatelaine at that age. So, you know, it was, we were just a fledgling shire at the time. Anyway, so yeah, we heard amazing things about the SCA. Wilf Gaylord was involved in that whole thing, Edward DeWolf, and he taught us all kinds of amazing things about the SCA. And so Haskell and I went to this little meet and greet, and we came out of there thinking, man, we are going to be knights and dukes, man. And which when I used to tell the story seemed really far away. It seemed like a really far-fetched idea that a couple of jokers could ever even hope to attain something like that. But as it turns out, here we go.
Yeah.
Anyway, and so I was very excited about the SCA, but I was really excited to meet that girl, to get to know more about her. So yeah, so we became fast friends as I came into the SCA and sort of found myself and thought of who I was, and learned how to publicly speak, and learned how to fight, and just learned an amazing amount of things. It's been an organization that has given me so much over the years. And then as they eventually left the SCA, she was gone she went off to university and did other things and lost interest and moved on with her life. And then years and years later, I had moved from Sagala-Hundas to Morganwood, and I was home from work one day, and the phone rang, back when we had phones in the walls that used to ring. And it turned out that she had also independently moved from Regina to Saskatoon, and happened to be flipping through the phone book one day and happened to see my name, and was wondering if that was the same Trent Fair that she used to know from the SCA. So she called, and I picked up, and yeah, this time around we didn't just stay friends. All those feelings from years and years ago came washing over me again, and yeah, we became much more than friends. And it wasn't too long before I was able to make her princess, and it wasn't too long after that I made her my wife. So yeah, and it's been an amazing ride ever since. I couldn't imagine doing any of the things in the SCA that I've done without her. I couldn't imagine a better person to rule the kingdom with. She was breathtaking in her ability to do all of the things that a queen needs to do. It's just amazing.
Yay.
So yeah, that's my how I met my wife story. There was a what do you love about the SCA email chain back when we used to email back and forth instead of going on Facebook.
Right.
Facebook was a thing.
Yep.
And there was a what hooked you in the SCA, and that was my story. What hooked me in the SCA was my wife.
Oh, so cute.
So cute.
Speaking of reigns, you have reigned both as prince before, but also you've reigned twice as king. Yes?
Yes, I have.
Could you tell us about how some of those reigns differed from one another, and what the three experiences were like?
They really were very, very different, all three of them. Ruling the principality as prince at the time felt like a very, very big deal, and now that I look back on it, I'm amazed that we even got through it. We seem so young. I look at the pictures back then, and we seem so young. I mean, we were newly married. I won, and we were married in the same 2-month stretch. So,
Wow.
yeah, it was a heck of a thing. There was lots of busy. It was a busy year, but it was a lot of fun. We were trying to fight. That was the time where I really was able to learn how to speak in front of a crowd and that kind of thing. And so that was very important to me. It was a great time for us. We had some struggles with at the time, reigning king and queen of Antir, and we had some sour experiences with Antir, to the point where I actually hadn't been back to Antir until our reign as king and queen. So that was almost 20 years. And there was lots of other things that had gone on in there. There was we had left the SCA because we had sort of lost, not really lost interest, but found other things that were more important, right? We were raising children, and we were trying to become grown-ups and not spending every single dime we had on camping events and all that kind of stuff, right? So I went back to school in those times, and got a university degree, and so there's lots of things that went on. But yeah, so that was a really interesting reign. And then our first reign as king and queen was just like magical is the best way I can use to describe it. It was so much fun. We had this amazing experience at Penzik, where so many Avacalians and so many of our friends came with us. I like to say that I was knighted and I won crown.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to Penzik as king. And those are the three things that I've done that were the greatest things that were my experience in the SCA. They really were like 1, 2, 3. And then being squired to Duke Ivar is right underneath there. But I hope he doesn't see this, because he thinks it's the top one, but it's not. Right? Getting knighted was the best. So it really was fantastic. We had, and I can't take really much credit for it, because, like I said, Ashley was amazing as queen, and we had such an incredible retinue. We took people who didn't really know what they were doing
at all. Just putting it out there. At all.
We just let them shine. Like Skald had never been Royal Herald, and that guy knocked it out of the park. I hope he's okay.
Absolutely.
I hope he's not dead right now, having been kidnapped.
Sure,
They'll take reasonably good care of him.
It's totally fine. You know, and Gwen, you had never been head of
Anything.
retinue and
Anything.
or anything really, because you were so new in the SCA, and you did such an amazing job. Like, we were just so well supported, and so it just made our job so much easier, knowing that we could rely on the people that were helping us out. I've said a few times, it takes a gaggle of people to rule a kingdom. It's not just the two at the top, and that was really proof in the pudding that we had such great people. So those two reigns very different, and then our third reign was different still. I mean, it was a perfect storm for a difficult reign.
Yes.
I mean, obviously no one saw COVID coming, so that was that was the biggest thing that was hard. But almost overshadowing all that was that set up a perfect storm for all of the social unrest and sort of online activity that happened around that time and during our reign. So that caused a lot of, like, it was a perfect storm for people to want to sort of strike out at authority and be a force for change. And so that was very difficult to manage. Lots of that felt very personal. So it was hard for us to manage a situation that we didn't necessarily have control over, but was looked at as being our fault. So that took a lot out of us, and it took a lot of effort to manage. It was probably a big reason why we stepped down. I mean, we obviously should have stepped down before we did, but the bod had asked us, had asked all the royals, if you can stay on, you should, because kingdoms need consistent leadership. It's difficult to make a transition in the middle of COVID. So we did our best, and obviously we wanted the best for Queen Aisha I mean, and obviously King Vic, I guess, you know, but this was Queen Aisha's first coronation, so we really, really wanted to hang on long enough that we could get together as a kingdom and really celebrate our new royalty, and we just couldn't. We ran out of steam. So it was a hard thing to manage, and it took a lot out of us, but it certainly was an experience. And here we are. You know, I've still got all my garb. I haven't burnt it or anything. So, you know,
no fire in the backyard.
Gonna call it a win.
Yeah, well, it's been okay. I'm doing okay with the armor thing, so that's kept my interest in SCA wise. You know, it's helping. I mean, really, the armor thing right now, the plastic armory, its main goal is to make the SCA cost net zero. That's our sort of goal with it. And then maybe send one of our children to university. I don't know.
I mean, that would be cool, right? Like, that's a thing.
Absolutely.
I guess, you know.
I'm noticing I'm noticing some wonderful heraldry behind you. I'm curious, could you tell us about your persona?
Well, sure. I'll first tell you about my herald. So I would love to talk about the deep and incredible research that I did about my name and persona, but we have to remember that I joined the SCA in 1988, right? So that's me at about, I don't know, 14, 15 years old, whatever it is. So that's not what happened. I rented a movie called Eric the Viking, which we all know and love. It's a fantastic show. Tim Robbins, guy's a god. And I really enjoyed the show, but I needed a persona and a name. So I just slowed down the credits with the VCR, you know, VCR with the tape and the whole thing. Be Kind, Rewind, all going back to the old days. I slowed down the tape and I watched the credits over and over again, and I picked all the names out. And there was a Halfdan the Black, who's a real historical character, and an Ivar the Boneless, another real historical character. So I just took those two names and said myself Ivar the Black. It's literally the sum total of persona research I did at the time. I have since, looked at things a little more closely in the Norse realm. So I'm a 10th century Dane, who was mostly just floating around the North Atlantic doing his thing. We had some fun things where I landed on the Isle of Orkney and found myself a girl, and her father, having no money for dowry or anything like that, swore himself to my service in order to sort of allow her to join my household. And so that, of course, is Grim, my squire.
Yes.
One day he'll pay that service off and we'll get the guy knighted, but it hasn't happened yet. So, you know, maybe one day, Grim, but not yet. Sorry, buddy. I still have needed that service. So, but honestly, persona development is not a thing that has been super critical for me. I really like this sort of, I love the things that are Norse, and I get into the artwork and all that kind of stuff. But honestly, it's not the thing that drives me in the SC. The thing that drives me in the SC is the combat. It's what I'm good at. Turns out that Like I played hockey and baseball and football and all those other things. I'm not good at any of those sports, right? I'm an okay football player because I'm a big guy and I'm pretty quick. But it turns out that sword fighting is what I was built for. That I had a calling to it. Not the thing that I started doing in the SCA. I was a rapier guy first, and I still remember the day that I decided maybe I'll try heavy fighting was when Vic Vikingson, who wasn't even a squire at the time, was coming off the field with Haskell, who took to fighting right away.
Right.
And I saw the camaraderie between them, and I thought, oh, that looks pretty fun.
Yeah.
And Vic looked at me and said, "You're a pretty big guy. How come we don't fight?" And I didn't really have a good answer for him, so I thought, oh, maybe I'll put it on. So, and it turned out. So thanks, Vic. Appreciate that, buddy. Anyway, yeah. So persona-wise, not a big thing. The boar on my heraldry, who used to have no chain and no crown, because those are devices that I can add according to my rank. Way back when I was a squire, my knight Duke Ivar said, "You know, you're going to have to yourself a device. You put a big scary animal on there, because I'll remember who you are then." Like that was the sum total of his advice for. So I did a bit of research in the heraldry, in the realms and symbolism and all that kind of stuff. And a boar was a symbol of ferocity, obviously. Terrible, filthy creatures that they are, the man killers, but also a symbol of hospitality. Because the idea was that look at the danger that I put myself in to serve you, this boar.
Right.
So this is hospitality. And so ferocity and hospitality are two things that are very, very important to me. Ferocity when I fight, and I like to show my guests and the people in my camp a good time. And, you know, by extension, the people who come to my kingdom when I'm ruling it.
Right.
You know, so hospitality is a big thing for me. And so the boar seemed to be a natural fit. And so, yeah, that's why that thing is up there. This banner, by the way, was made by Baron Hamlin. So thanks for that, my friend. It was a welcome and very honored gift. Mine hangs in my office. All my mundane Zoom meetings are like, what the heck is that thing behind you? And Ashley actually hangs hers in her office, and they say the same thing. They're actually right behind us. So get lots of airtime.
Excellent. Good to know. Good to know. I believe that brings us to my favorite question of the evening. Is, do you have any favorite moments or memories you'd like to share with us?
Oh, SCA-wise, there's been so many. It really has been an organization that has given a lot to me and taught me very much the kind of person I am. I honestly, that trip to Penzic was magical. It was like being at a resort. If you've ever been to an all-inclusive resort where they make a big deal about everything that you do, except that we were the only ones there and everyone else was kind of helping us out. It just felt amazing, right? Like we had an excellent group of fellow royals that we met, and I've still maintained those friendships to this day. It was amazing. We really got to showcase the excellence that is this kingdom on a sort of a known world stage, and to be a part of that was just absolutely magical. I keep using that adjective, but that's really what it was. But yeah, I mean, going to Penzic, getting knighted, winning crown, those are all amazing things. Winning crowns and cornet tournaments for the same person has been great. She really is a big part of my ability to execute in these tournaments. We're very much a team in the fortune that I've had being able to win those ones. So yeah, those really have been. But honestly, like getting squired, watching my friends get knighted, watching my friends enter into relationships with amazing people, fealty based or romantic based or whatever. Like I wish I could call out one single moment that was the best, but like there's just been so many. And it honestly could be as easy as sitting around the fire in the grotto, the area that we camped at Quad War, because that's honestly one of my favorite places in the world, is just sitting around that fire with people that I trust and people that I love, and looking around and just having anyone come into the camp and say, "Hey, I haven't seen you in a long time." And so it sort of depends on the moment of when the favorite things are, but Yeah, they really are. There's been just too many to name.
That's awesome. Yay. Happy feelings. I think that's it for the questions tonight. Do you have any final comments to anybody who's watching Avacal and all our Interkingdom people now?
All the
All
known
of our
world.
Interkingdom. Good job, Interkingdom people. Welcome to Avacal. You should come. It's super nice up here. Except not right now because we got snow. Final words. I guess all I would say, I mean, I could plug my website, but I think I've done that enough. I would just say that I'm, and I think I could probably speak for Her Grace as well, when I say that we are just deeply looking forward to getting together again with the rest of our friends and being able to come together and fellowship and celebrate just being together. You know, I mean, Zoom is great. You know, this kind of interaction is nice, and it keeps us sort of current, and it's a reason to dust off my tunic and put the stuff on, put some bling on and all that kind of stuff. But honestly, we haven't made a big appearance in ESCA because it's not really our thing. It's not really for us. We've got other things that we need to be doing. We are very much looking forward to seeing the rest of our friends and our future friends at whatever we can get to the next time. So until that time, we bid you I don't know, good luck in all of your whatever you're doing. Please come back to us. I worry sometimes that people will realize that they can get along without the SCA and keep on moving. We have found that we've had some discussions about building friendships and finding people who you connect with, and alongside discussions of why do we stay in the SCA, like what's in it for us, and apart from everything else that we've already talked about tonight, it really has been, it's the place where we bind ourselves in friendship to other people. It's an organization that really facilitates that, and so that doesn't happen online, right? That doesn't happen over Zoom calls. That helps to renew connections, but new connections are hard to build unless you can break bread with somebody and sit around a fire and talk about the old days and how great we used to be and how we used to have phones that you would ring on the wall and all that kind of stuff, right? So yeah, that's just the thing. We're so looking forward to getting back together. We don't know when it's going to be, but we know that whenever this all goes away, the SCA is still going to be there for us, and so we're looking forward to that.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for being on our show.
It was a pleasure, the genuine pleasure. Always a pleasure to talk to you, Maeve. Anytime. You don't call enough.
You might regret saying that.
Call anytime you like.
And thank you, Gwen, for stepping in very last minute.
Of course.
We will try to find out what happened to your squire there.
I'm sure he'll turn up.
I've heard. I don't know if this is me speaking out of turn, but I've heard reports in my duchy, actually the Black Duchy in southeastern Avacal, of North Shield agents moving through. So if this has anything to do with North Shield or our friends to the east of us, there will be a reckoning.
Okay.
I have no doubts.
And the sign did say to be announced ransom, I believe.
Yeah.
I feel
Something
like,
about ransom.
right. So I feel like he's got to be safe at least until they get that or discuss that.
Well, I hope they accept plastic armor as currency, because I've got no shortage of that.
Perfect.
I'm sure we'll hear soon. Thank you
See.
very much for your time, the both of you. And thank you everybody for watching. And this has been me with Chris.